Year 5 on the season coming up for the Michigan Wolverines. They got the Gophers from Minnesota, the noon kick again at Michigan Stadium. U of M out to a 3-1 mark. You know all those things, so I'll welcome you in as we get ready to go here on a Wednesday on the Maize and Blue Review, brought to you by Rivals.com. It's great to be with you here after Saturday's game, which was a classic against USC, and still some reverberations from that game this past Saturday, and a lot of things to think about, chew on when it comes to Michigan football. And somebody today told me Michigan was lucky, and I said, I could see how somebody could say that. I said lucky they had Khalil Mullings, lucky that Khalil Mullings broke off a 63-yard run by breaking a couple tackles. Lucky they got a great running back. Okay, I don't know how lucky you get when you play 60 minutes of football and you get there towards the end and you get a win. Diminishes things a little bit. I don't know. You get a lucky bounce, you get a lucky call, or there are lucky bounces and lucky calls. I don't know. Michigan won that game and saved the season for the time being. And we're going to talk a lot about it here with you coming up. I got a few things that I wanted to hit on specifically. I'll tell you what I'm looking for this Saturday at noon against Minnesota when they play for the little Brown Jug. I will also weigh in on if 10-2 and the college football playoff is still in the realm of possibility for this Michigan team. You always have to pause and think about that when I ask you that question. Your immediate response would be, yeah, Michigan fan. Are you kidding me? 10-2, or you could be, are you kidding? Playoffs? Playoffs 10-2 with this team? That could be your immediate reaction. We'll see what your reaction is. I'll tell you what mine is. Now, I've had a little bit more time to think about it than you. But when you get to Wednesday, you're peeking ahead at the weekend slate, and you still are able to look in the rearview mirror at a game like USC this past Saturday. That's a nice thing about Wednesdays during the football season. You want so much football, and you kind of calm it down, and here you are, and you're getting ready for the next week. You love it, and I love it. It's kind of why you're here, I think. I ask you where you're at, and I put 3 choices, and I'll read those choices for you, especially those of you that are just listening on the pod. We love you that are listening on the pod in your car. It's a great thing to do. You want to hear about Michigan football, and you've got the Maize and Blue Review pod in your car, and just a couple buttons, it's up, and you're off and running. You're ready to go. So, and also you could be watching this on YouTube and, kind of just listening to the audio once in a while, looking up and saying, hey, what's Dennis wearing, or whatever? What are the people saying? All right, so here are the 3 choices where I think all Michigan fans are at. Are they A, happy with the win this past Saturday, excited about the defense and the offensive line performance versus USC, and thinks U of M will figure the quarterback position out? That's A. Where are you at? Are you B, happy with the win, excited about the defense and the O-line performance versus USC, but thinks U of M could be in a little trouble because of their quarterbacks? Or are you C, happy with the win but angry because U of M will lose 3 more games because of the quarterback position? Now, you could be A, B, and C. Let's see how that, you're excited, you like the defense, you like the offensive line performance. No, I think you could be a combination of A and B, or I think you could be a combination of B and C. I think the majority of Michigan fans are at B. You're happy with the win. Even if you don't act like you're happy with a win, like immediately afterwards, you are happy. Your team won. You are excited about the defense overall. You could say, if they lost, you wouldn't be saying such things. And I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but Meanwhile, Michigan left time, what was it, 41 seconds, 51 seconds? I know that's why a lot of people didn't like him throwing on that, what was it, second or third down? Second down, because you wanted to either win it all right there and not leave any time. And there's a point to that as well. Michigan's point is they think we're just going to run it every single time. This is going to be like taking candy from a baby. And of course, USC was there. That backfired a little bit on Michigan. Where am I at? I think that because Michigan's defense had to go out there and validate the great 63-yard run and then the touchdown plunge by Mulling with whatever amount of time, 40 seconds or whatever it was, 37 seconds. They had to keep Miller Moss in that high-octane offense, and they had to make plays to win that game. So but they still were out there, and being able to do that, and I think that gets you a little bit more. The way they played in the first half, everybody, I mean, you could be I don't even know who you would be. I guess a Michigan State fan. You'd have to say, oh, yeah, Michigan State or Michigan played great in the first half. They would, of course, say, well, there's always the second half, which is true. But Michigan played great in the first half and then, got hit a little bit, but then made the plays when they had to get the offenses back and the coaching staffs back and secure that victory. So I think you should be excited about the Michigan defense and what you saw. I didn't see that from U of M in the first three games. I didn't see the pass rush that they had this past Saturday. So I think being happy about the defense, you should be. I think the same thing about the offensive line now. Is that, they were blown away. It's the one part, Arkansas State and Fresno State, those games really don't matter. Like, you're like, okay, let's see it against a legitimate opponent, a power 4 or 5, the way it used to be, opponent, which is, I get that. That's what I'm looking at. And I like the offensive line performance. That's still how I feel about this game, that coming out with a victory was great. And that's what you want, obviously. But then the three things that I was worried about, the defense, the offensive line, and the quarterback, 2 out of those 3, I feel pretty good on this Wednesday about. So that's where I'm at. Now, look, I don't tell people. There's a lot of people that have been trying to deal with Michigan fans. If you're like the C category, like, you get angry because you feel like, why is Michigan in this position with these quarterbacks? I'm mad at Ward Manuel. I'm mad at Sherrod Moore. I am mad at, who else could you be mad at? Kirk Campbell, the quarterback's coach. I'm mad at all the quarterbacks. I'm mad. Michigan won the game, sure, but they're not going to win. This is a lost season. What are they doing? I don't need to tell everyone, but everybody has their right to their opinion. And Michigan fans, I think when you're, I don't know how young, under 30, I think you're more like, everything is, you're there winning and looking great, and you're thinking about it's championship or everybody should get fired. And then you get a little bit older, and you realize that the championships are few and far between. And if that's the way you enjoy sports, that you always have to win a championship or be in a play for, that's Michigan. And this is the expectation, that you're going to be disappointed an awful lot. And do you really want to be that disappointed all the time? I know there's some people, you need to hold everybody accountable all the time. And if they don't win a championship, you want somebody fired. Now, I used to be that way. You always feel like you're either working towards a championship or you're working towards getting new coaches and new players in there, especially in the pros when it comes that way. My point with all of that is that, hey, and even if you're over 30 and you're still angry all the time and you just want championships, and you've evolved in other parts of your life, hey, whatever you want to do, it's all over the board. And know this, the ones that are super angry all the time, they get the most juice. People like hearing, even if you're like the most level-headed person, you kind of enjoy hearing, like, Mad Max. It's always freaking out over everything. Recruiting's going to hell. Ward's a son of a bitch. This team, this thing's falling, cratering. It's just a matter of time. People like hearing that extreme stuff. If you're somebody that's always like, I just love Michigan, I don't, I'm supporting him no matter what, even if it doesn't look so good, I'm never even acting like that. I appreciate that kind of fan. I mean, it really takes, that kind of fan. It's like, hey, you might have went to school there. You just love the school. You just love Michigan. You're not going to criticize them. You love the coaches. You love the players. I think out of those two extremes, happy-go-lucky, lollipops, and, ice cream and everything, Michigan's great all the time, or these son of a bitch, I got to get both of them, but I've dealt with over the years so much with the folks that are upset. Those are the ones that when you talk to the super nice, just everything's going great, you don't really have much more to say to those folks. If you're one of those folks, you just come in and you say, hey, everything's going great. Let's trust the coaches. Let's root for them. We're all Michigan fans. Let's get behind them. Let's move on. That's all you can say. That's kind of it. The other side takes a lot more explaining. Like, okay, well, look, Ward, what does he have to do with it's the NIL. And then, say, well, you're really talking about putting I saw someone that wanted to put Sharon Moore on the hot seat if Michigan lost to USC, and he said, considering everything that, Michigan had heading into this season. And so, a lot of talking points when you're hot and angry about the team. I don't know if that makes sense or not to you. That's just how I'm feeling. I know there's been a lot of that since Saturday. People like, hey, how about just enjoying the win or something? It's like, hey, how about you just mind your own business? I'll enjoy the win. Part of me enjoying the wins, looking at the rest of the season and seeing how this thing's going to go. And I don't think it's going to go that good. So yeah, I'm moving on. Turn the page on the victory. Yeah, I liked it. It's here in my back pocket. Now let's go. So that's it. I wanted to see where the people are at. That was a long deal for me to spit all that out for 12 minutes, but that's where I'm at. So let's just see where the people, a segment of Michigan fans, and just how they feel. Michael's moved on. He's talking about beating the Gophers. And he's talking about rather be lucky than good. You want to be... I don't think you can be rather lucky than good. You can be in certain, like a play or something, but an overall team, I don't think that I don't think you can get lucky and get into the college football playoff. Do we agree with that, Michael? I mean, you can get lucky on a call, you can get a break, something like that. Like the Lions got a big break this past Sunday when the clock was going to the 2-minute warning, and the Lions were trying to get, I don't know, say we get cute, wherever they were trying to snap the ball and make a play. And, they got their quarterback smeared and he threw a pick and it went for a pick six and they got a break because the ref was stepping in and blew the whistle. That almost always in my lifetime, by the way, went against the line. That's the way the tables were turned. The Lions were getting the pick six and going in there, and then they're like, no, they blew it dead. And you're like, are you kidding me? Lions got a break there. That was a break, and I think that was lucky. John says he believes Michigan can win out in the Big Ten. John, let's hold this statement, and we will get to it coming up because I'm going to look at the rest of the Michigan schedule. So let's get back to that one. Michael's just talking about a one game at a time approach. Got no problem with that. Is this the Mustafa? There was a Mustafa that used to call in Ann Arbor. This could be him. He says, if the passing game doesn't improve, we can't beat elite teams. I agree with that. Here, people weighing in. Michael's he's an A. Aaron's A, but sometimes B. I get that. Go Blue 1234, who's bought a couple drinks when we have our big party, maybe for that Washington game coming up. He's A, and Mustafa wants to be an A, and Stylus is between A and B. And for people that are just joining us, you're like, what are you talking about? Well, A is you're happy with the win this past Saturday. You're excited about the defense and the offensive line performance versus USC, and you think U of M will figure this out with the quarterback position. B is somewhat similar. You're happy with the win. You're excited about the defense and offensive line, but you think U of M could be in trouble because of the quarterbacks. And then C, you're happy but angry. You're happy with the win, but then you got angry because U of M is going to lose 3 more games because of that quarterback position. So I'm just going through it a little bit. Here's UM, nice initials. If Kenny Grant doesn't give it back after the fumble recovery and we don't give up busts on D, this game is a 10-point win. Yeah, I saw Lincoln Riley say it was something to around this point, the gist of it was he liked how the Trojans defense was on 43 of the 47 runs. It's like, oh yeah, but what about those other ones? Yeah, I mean, like if I'm a USC fan, I'm saying, yeah, if a quarterback that throws for 32 freaking yards is backed up 90 yards with a couple minutes to go, they're running the ball. They'll let some dude, go off for a 63-yard run. Put everybody up there. I think USC has more of the, you take the one play out and it's a little bit different. But, I don't mind. I mean, you play that game. It's a game that we do all play. When did Michigan go someplace? They are going someplace, not this week, but the following week, they're going to Seattle. I don't understand. I mean, explain yourself a little bit more, Dave. When did Michigan go someplace? Maybe it's just something that I said and you're just going back. There were a lot of razor-type moments for USC that they escaped where Michigan could have blown them out. Yeah. Okay, so here's somebody else. The other side of that coin is that you could be sitting here talking about if USC makes one stop, they win the game on the 4th and goal, obviously. On the 3rd down run, that one, you could say, hey, if Moss doesn't throw that ball for a pick six, so when you play that game, I don't know, do you have a point if you're a Michigan fan saying, yeah, but if we didn't do this, it would have been a blowout? How many things are Andre saying? A lot of razor-type moments. Yeah, a lot of razor-type moments in a game that went back and forth and some highs and lows where we could be sitting here talking about a whole different story on either side. Blowout for Michigan, a big win for USC. So that's football. That's a lot of times when you have two teams like this, classic teams, you get something like that. So there we go. M Lover wants to say something about Ward. He thinks we can do better than Ward, and we're not even saying it's his fault. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard my thoughts on the athletic director. Athletic directors, they're like commissioners in sports. They're there for you to be angry when something's going on. They look like they have super easy jobs. Roger Goodell, Gary Bettman. I've never heard anybody say anything positive about the commissioner of the NHL. People love hockey. And he gets booed out of this. Ward Manuel is like Gary Bettman out there he brings the Stanley Cup out there and boo. And, so nobody likes him, but that's part of the job. You just take all the slings and arrows. People say things that, and could he help himself out and come out and say, there's a lot of Michigan fans that are saying a lot of things that, no, but I think he ignores them. I think he just says, I'm going to head out to the golf course and I'm going to listen to all these people that don't know what they're talking about. So maybe he brings some of that on himself, but I think it goes with the territory. I don't think that he's doing a bad job, but do I want to sit here and fight people on it and saying, how could you say that? it really goes back to how you feel about 2020. You could have two people sitting in here and one could say, Ward, that was when he slashed Jim Harbaugh's salary in half. Harbaugh was looking to leave ever since that, and that's Ward Manuel's fault that he did that. That was a terrible move, and Harbaugh was looking to get out of Dodge as soon as that happened. And then on the other side, you could say 75% of Michigan fans and alumni wanted Jim Harbaugh out, and there was, only a small amount of athletic directors in that position that would have even kept Jim Harbaugh, and Ward was one of them. And look what happened. He motivated Harbaugh, and Harbaugh went on and ripped off the 3 glorious years culminating in a national championship. Oh, how the hell could you be mad at Ward? Well, you just said it because, that's however you want to believe that. I happen to believe that most people, it was very reasonable to want Jim Harbaugh fired after 2020, whatever you believe. I believe it was very reasonable. It was finally, he looked haggard. He wasn't getting it done during Ohio State, against Ohio State, even though I said it myself that if there's one guy, that knows how to beat Ohio State, it's going to be Jim Harbaugh. But at what point? 0-5, 0-6, 0-7, were you going to be like, okay, let's just finally make a move? There were a lot of people that were ready to make that move, and there were a lot of athletic directors that would have made that move. But look, if you dig in and believe that Ward's, got some horns coming out of his head or he's dumb and, it's believe whatever you want. I just tell you what I believe. I don't expect us to compete for a natty every year because we don't recruit well enough for that. I think that's true. I don't think they recruit well enough for that. Could they recruit well enough for that now that you can buy the recruits? That would maybe, but you would have to really change the culture. You'd have to change yourself. And Michigan's culture is we don't buy recruits, even though you can now. Even before everybody else was doing it, nobody cared. They're like, they used it was true. You're not supposed to do it, and even though everybody's doing it, nobody's getting penalized, and nobody cares, and the kids deserve it. And Michigan was like, no, we're standing on this hill and dying on it. But now that you can do it, there's still the idea like, no, we're not going to just throw all this money at a 17-year-old kid. We're not giving a high school kid millions of dollars. So I think that at this time, you're right, that Michigan doesn't recruit well enough. But Michigan's identifying a certain player that fits their profile that is not recruited high enough to get that money, but the next tier of players, and you're looking for, I don't know if they're diamonds in the rough, but players that could be like 5 stars but aren't commanding that kind of money. That's been Michigan's approach. You might not like that. It's worked. USC narrowly escaped multiple sacks, safeties, interceptions, and blocked kicks on top of the Kenneth Grant dreaming of an 80-yard return play. Okay. So, USC got lucky is what I'm seeing here. Michigan didn't. There was no luck for Michigan. USC was lucky they didn't get blown out. So this is where we're at right now. Urabi, we need to start dropping cash on these elite recruits to compete for a natty every year. That would be a complete departure in what Michigan's doing right now. So I don't know if that's happening. I don't think that's happening. This era of U of M football is so great. Didn't we get out of the Rich Rod and Hoke years? That's right. You never want to go back to those. This point about, you don't think that there are 12 teams better than us, we should get in. All right. I think that's where we're headed next, is just what Michigan can expect. I think when it comes to the quarterback, and maybe this point has been made I'm going to make it here. For those that looked at Alex Orji and put themselves like this isn't a college quarterback. This is not a Big Ten quarterback. Michigan's not going to get into the college football playoff for a guy that went threw 32 yards. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Any of those kind of things. I get what you're saying. I also think that if it was a different circumstance, since we're playing the circumstance game and the hypothetical game, if this was Fresno and Alex Orji, he would have thrown for more than 32 yards. I think if Alex Orji would have played against Fresno, he would have thrown for over 100 yards and he would have run for over 100 yards. And if Alex Orji played against East Carolina last year, I think he would have run for 100 yards and thrown for 100 yards. Or if it was Colorado State from the year before, the last three openers for Michigan, or any directional school or UConn or UNLV, I think Alex Orji would have gone out there and people would have been talking about him as a September Heisman, or, he's this guy, can you believe it? He's a powerhouse runner, and if he just develops his passing, he could win it all. That's kind of goes with the territory when you play easy opponents. But Alex Orji was not dropped in there in his first ever start against an easy opponent. Now, sure enough, he did get some snaps, so it wasn't like completely he was just dropped in there and he had to play USC. I'm not trying to go to any extremes. My point is that this was not him. It's different when you're named the starter. You get the starter reps all the way through the week. You go through that knowing that the game is on you. Then you're a massive underdog for the first time in a long time. And since Ohio State, 2 years ago, and everybody's expecting you to lose, and the defense isn't playing all that great, and you're just everybody's, I don't want to say everybody's down on you, but everybody was ready to give up on Michigan if they lost this game. That was so incredible amount of pressure for the first start, and it was against a legitimate top 25 team. I think people are missing that. My point to this is I think that Alex Orji is going to be much more comfortable, and I think he's going to look a lot better against Minnesota. And I think in this first half of the season, the 6 games, his third start will be out at Washington. I want to see, like you, how he looks against Minnesota, how he looks in his first road game dealing with a hostile crowd. How will he look after 3 games? Is he going like skyrocketing up? I wouldn't predict that. But Michigan saw something in him to recruit him. I don't think that they would put him out there and let him stay at quarterback and all the way through in the spring if they didn't think that there was something there where he could improve and look a lot better and play a lot better. And so I think that's something, at least, I don't know if you want to keep it in mind, but it's something that I'm emphasizing here today. Yeah, true enough, that was Michigan's 4th game. It was Alex Orji's first game. And what do you say about openers? Almost all the time, it's like, you could have, not bad for an opener. Things could have been a lot. Well, an opener against a top 25 team. When's the last time that's happened? A long time ago. It's like probably when Michigan played Notre Dame. Maybe, they played Washington. I mean, they played Power 5 teams to lead off the season or open up the season, but not top 25 teams. So this was a tough spot that Orji was in. Now, you could say that, and you're right, that Michigan put him in this spot, and he should have been the starter from the get-go, and, I agree with those things, but I don't know what good it's going to go, do right here today and saying that Michigan should go back, or saying that they should have even made this decision earlier, because you have Orji and the plays that you're going to call and what you're going to block and what the offense needs to do with Orji is night and day from Davis Warren. So these players are practicing with a pocket passer and then an RPO dude. That's very difficult for a team that's got all those starters. So that was never a good idea for Sharon and company. I don't know why. What can I say? Like I said, it's I'm not going to harp on that. I'm not right now, not today. So Orji, my point quickly is that I think tough opponent for your first start, and yeah, we're going to draw some conclusions when if he would have hit that pass where he came in the second series against Arkansas State, where he heaved it down there for Frederick Moore from the bomb, we'd be feeling a lot different. If he didn't bury that one, now he did do these things. Now he didn't bury that one, and dribbled it down the field. That one. There was a couple throws against USC, and then USC basically not playing anybody on the receivers, saying, okay, go ahead, beat us deep. We're putting 9 in the box. That's what everybody's going to do. We know that. But I say I'm willing. So are you. You're willing to see what the Minnesota game brings and the Washington game. That gets us to the halfway point of the season. I think they're going to beat Minnesota. I think they're going to beat Washington. The reason I think they're going to beat Minnesota is that I watched Minnesota and North Carolina play on that opening Thursday night, and Minnesota had a chance to kick a field goal and win that game, and they did. North Carolina ended up winning it. This doesn't always work, but North Carolina gave up 70 points last week to James Madison. I feel like that was a bad loss for Minnesota. They were at home. This past week, Minnesota was at home against Iowa. Cade McNamara threw for 62 yards in a 31-14 win. The Hawkeyes rolled up 372 yards rushing. Now, you get funny and you say, you think Orji could throw for 62 yards. I'd like to see Orji throw for 100 yards on Saturday. And I'd like to see Michigan run for over 300. Throw for 100, rush for 3. I think it can happen. And I think that sounds like a 38-9 victory for Michigan. Defense looks good. They dress Will Johnson. Don't play him because, they're only going to play him break in case of emergency. You get a lot of depth and rotational players in there. And then there you go. So that's why I think Michigan is going to retain the little brown jug and they're going to get the victory. And I get that, the line is only 9.5. I feel like Michigan's going to cover that as we sit here right now. Now, as far as the rest of the games, the question that I ask you, that if 10-2 is still in play, I don't think there are 12 teams better than us. We should get in. Well, let's look through these. I'm going to take just a few on the feedback about 10-2 still being in play and, see where the people are at. When it comes down to this, let's get to some of the feedback. Sorry. For some reason, my scrolling finger is not going all that great. Here it is. It's working now. Hadley is all in. Winning the jug, and he thinks Orji will throw for close to 100 yards. There you go. There you go, Hadley. Richard, I would have predicted that you are an A. Keegan's an A, but he's also a blank hole. Andre's a little bit of A and B. I kind of think that's what I am. The punters, worried about B. This isn't last year's team. The punters pointing out that Orji isn't as good as a runner as some think. Well, I wasn't as impressed as I thought that I was going to be with Orji running the ball this past Saturday. I am going to wait, punters. I hear what you're saying. I think that the game was going 500 miles an hour for Orji against USC. Stripe field, Aaron, top 25 matchup, first start. Woo! Lose the job. Now you're back in there. You got to save the season. Run the ball. Don't turn it over. Can't throw a lick. Okay. Woo! I think the game's really going to calm down for him. I'm expecting him to be look better as a runner. He's just got to get out there. And for that, there's so many things you have to do at quarterback. But I think as a runner, I would predict that we're going to think that he is going to look a lot. I think he's going to look a lot better starting on Saturday. And yeah, for the rest of the time he's in there, I'm expecting more and for him to look more like a game breaker at running back. I think that, again, just that was his opener. That was his first game, and it was against a very tough opponent. So I'm going to give him a couple games there, and again, that's my prediction on that. Let's see, SV. This team may not be as good from play to play, but had enough talent and big-time players for the college football playoff. That's what I was thinking before the season. That's what I was thinking from. Let's say Wally's got a point about to the rest of this year. Could Orji benefit from running a quick game scheme to get in a rhythm? More of an up-tempo type offense. I think what's going to benefit Alex Orji is reps. And he, sure enough, he got, 2 last year against OSU and 2 against Iowa and 2 in the Rose Bowl and 2 in the national championship game. So what I've said, 8 snaps, those are beneficial. I'm not underplaying, getting snaps in big time situations. And then how many ever snaps he played in these first couple games. It's way different. I think what's benefiting him is that he was able to play this entire game as the starter and went through the whole thing. And that's going to be what's going to benefit him. A running game is going to benefit him. An offensive line that can get better at pass blocking, I would put that in there. After that, are we really thinking about play calling and scheme? I don't know. I think that people feel like there's an answer there because you're searching for something because last week it wasn't there. I'm not really feeling those things right now, to be honest, for me. Go Blue 1234 says Mullings needs to be RB1. Yeah, well, I would put my money on Khalil Mullings being RB1 this week. What else does he have to prove? He had one of the greatest games as a running back in Michigan history, certainly one of the great runs in Michigan football history, considering the circumstances, and then one of the greatest drives in Michigan football history. When you put it in totality, I will say one of the greatest games as a running back in Michigan football history. Donovan Edwards, meanwhile, coughed the ball up. Yeah. And then you can say, well, it was just one game. Well, it hasn't been one game. It's been a lot of games. So everything points to Khalil Mullings being the starting running back on Saturday. And Sharon Moore was asked about who is RB1, if Mullings was the RB1, and he said he's done everything to be the RB1. So he basically said that Mullings was going to be the starter without just saying it. So I would expect that, and I would bet. I don't like betting a lot of money, so I'd bet $100 on Mullings being the running back 1. Punters is talking about Michigan's remaining schedule. It looks tough, winnable, but tough. Yeah, we're going to get to that part. So 10-2. We got a few more here. What was my favorite play from the game? The run from Mullings. The Herculean effort from Mullings on the final drive was epic. The Edwards run was poetry in motion. It damn near happened in slow motion. The Mullings run, the Edwards run, the Edwards 1 yard run to, if it wasn't the sixth, I'll go in order. The 63-yard run was my favorite. The 1 yard run, 4th and goal, was my second favorite. The Will Johnson pick six, I'd put as number 3. At number 4, I'll put Dono's touchdown run, and 5, I'll put Mullings' other touchdown run in there. If I had to start getting into 6 through 10, I would have to put Josiah Stewart with at least 2 plays in there, one on the pressure when USC had their final drive. I would also put, he had a sack that was in there. Actually, he stripped Moss on the fumble. He was the one that was stripping him. So there's 6, there's 7. I think Grant had a sack. I liked him. And what else am I looking at there? I also like Mason Graham. Am I up to 9 now? There was 9. And I'll put Doman's leg. Was there a specific one? Like the play before, or the series before Mullings' big run, Doman was kicking right out of the front of his own end zone. He boomed one. There was a lot of them like that. I don't know if I could squeeze them all together, if it was a little bit like cheating, so I was trying to go with just one. The most pressure on him was that particular punt. He came up pretty big, so I would go with that one. That's how I was at. So Kenneth is talking about 3 losses. Richard says 11-1. Ceiling is 10 wins. Floor is 6 wins. Well, let's walk through it. Like I said, I think they're beating Minnesota. I think they're going to beat Washington, Illinois. So let's rank the remaining opponents. Ohio State's going to be the most difficult game. I'll put Oregon. I know it's at home, but I still think that that's going to be a difficult game. And then at Illinois, I think those are the toughest 3. MSU, it's a rivalry game. Am I putting MSU there even in front of at Indiana? Looks like they're got a little something going on. I have a knack of like underestimating MSU. Like at Indiana and at Washington are going to be tougher games than Michigan State. Let's be honest. I'll put Michigan State. I think one of those. I do think Illinois. Let me just do it again. Ohio State, Oregon, Illinois, Michigan State, at Indiana, Washington. I know the Washington game, it's traditionally been very difficult. Then after that, we're looking at how many games we have left. Northwestern and Minnesota. Northwestern. So there it is. That's how I'm ranking the rest of those. And I did pick 10-2 with a loss against Texas and Ohio State. Yeah, so I'll agree that the ceiling is 10. But if they dropped Oregon and then one other one, that would put them at 9 wins, right? Wait, 1, 2, 3. That could be an 8-4. I don't think the 6 wins. I would be surprised by that. I think the floor is 8. So a little bit different than you, Christopher. I don't consider myself. I just consider myself a realist. Not being optimistic there. That's just how I'm looking at it. Richard's saying the 97 championship was defensive driven. No question about that. So that's it. Let's see, True Blue Tom. What's the old great? I wish I had the Ufer horn right here to blow for True Blue Tom joining in on the podcast. A Michigan legend. I don't know if you folks know it or not. True Blue Tom on Twitter, True Blue Tom on the radio. I mean, this Tom is a greeter. No better welcomer than Tom. You come walking in the store, True Blue Tom. Great guy. He predicts Alex has 125 passing yards and 275 rushing yards. Michigan 38-7, go blue. Now look, True Blue Tom is an absolute A on this list. Here's True Blue Tom. He is happy with the win. He's excited about the defense and the offensive line performance versus USC, and he thinks U of M will figure out the quarterback position starting this Saturday with Orji throwing for over 100 yards and rushing. I think he must means Michigan altogether because Orji's not running for 275 yards, but I get it. That would be a nice, and that's actually Tom. Trumpeting you as like a big Michigan homer. I don't think you would mind, but I don't think that's crazy talk. Orji throws for 125 yards, and Michigan rushes for 275, and they win 38-7. In the realm of possibilities. What was I saying? 42-9. So you and I are pretty close, Tom, at least in our initial read on the game. Let's see. JT says the crazy thing is that Orji looks very athletically confident in there. I don't know. He looks, athletically confident. I thought he would look better running the ball. I was hoping that he would look better throwing the ball. Throwing the ball, swing passes, a little short. He looks fine actually doing those. But it's anything after 10 yards, I haven't seen it. In the spring game, I saw a little bit of that. I mean, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some passes, I think if Michigan is going to win the college if they're going to get to the college football playoff, he needs to make plays from the pocket with his arm, throwing the ball down the field at times. He hasn't shown the ability to do that at all. That's what would make me feel much better about Michigan's chances. Not just Saturday or against Washington, but at Illinois. The quarterback position, you need to be able to get the ball in the pocket and make plays down the field with your arm. And let's see that. Let's see him be able to, I don't think he's going to be, I don't know, is he going to be able to throw it outside the hashes? I mean, he's going to have those kind of matchups where teams are going to leave. He's just going to have man coverage. And I would like to be able to see what he can do there. We saw him, so he's got this great arm. So he's got a strong arm. Can they put him in some spots where he can, air it out and kind of feel good about, trying to get him some confidence, being able to connect on some of those. That's it. That's where I'm at. Robert asking, has Cole seen the field this year? What, Cole Cabana? I would have to look through the participation. He's not gotten a carry. And I don't recall seeing him on special teams, but that's where we'd have to look. If I had to guess, I would say no. Josephine, time to take the training wheels off. Well, yes and no. Remember, we just had, he had his first start, and it was against USC. So let's see what he's going to be able to do against Minnesota and what looks like a chance to go out there and you're going to play with the lead. And Not everything is, going to be like under the intensity, the white hot intensity of a million suns, and you can take some chances. I think his comfort level is going to go up, and and that's what we'll see. And then we'll see what kind of play calling, if it looks any different to make him get more comfortable again. I don't know. Besides throwing a wide receiver screen, which all offensive coordinators do. I saw people ripping, Kirk Campbell. He's terrible offensive coordinator. I don't really want him to do. If a quarterback can't throw the ball down the field more than 10 yards, what do you want him to do? More end arounds? Let Donovan Edwards throw the ball a little bit? That's it. I'm not saying that people are stupid, for everybody's like, I get it. The offense wasn't working. Try something else. Try to do something else. If it would have been most of us in there, I think that Orji would have been replaced and you would have had Donovan Warren as the quarterback there. We don't know what would have happened. So that's it. I think 90% of Michigan fans would have made the change. Srikanth. It's a sweet name. Loveland is more critical to the offense than anyone thought before the season began. Well, having a great player and a tight end, a security blanket. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that's a good point. If I had to guess right now, I would say that we would see Loveland for the game on Saturday. Is there the idea that maybe he's, was 90% last week and, he'd get up to 95%? Is there the idea that, like Will Johnson, you dress him and then just see how things are going before you get him out there? I think there's a chance that you could see something like that. Maybe have both him and Johnson at the ready after a quarter, or I don't know, you start playing around with that, you can get dinged on the scoreboard. So if you can play him, you can play him. Dre says, has anyone seen or heard from the people who said USC was going to kill us? Well, you're sitting around amongst us, Dre. There was a lot of people that thought that USC, and I would say for good reason. USC looked really good against LSU. They looked like they got a defensive coordinator, and they looked like they could tackle. Meanwhile, Michigan had no answer at quarterback. Their offensive line didn't look very good, and their defense got worked over by Texas in a big game. So there was a good reason for people that thought that USC was going to kill us, to kill Michigan. So, calling out Michigan fans that thought that they were going to lose on Saturday because a lot of people, because they were a big-time underdog, and, there wouldn't be that many people standing, except there's a segment of Michigan fans who never pick against Michigan. So I don't know, how much credit do you get if you're just like, if we're talking about predictions, Dre? I'll just guess that you have never picked against Michigan in your life. So when you come in and start telling people, hey, where's all the people that were doubting Michigan? It's like, you always pick Michigan. Hey, so what are we even talking about? You know that it wasn't looking really good for Michigan when Desmond Howard picks against them. Desmond Howard has picked against Michigan. How long has he been working on College Game Day? For 20 years, maybe even more than that. Has he picked against Michigan more than 5 times? No. Once or twice? This past Saturday was one of them. So go ahead. Let's get your prediction. Oh, Dre has picked against Michigan in the past. Okay. Cut from a different cloth was, those were the same reasons I thought Michigan was going to lose. I was one of them. Glad I was wrong. Yeah, I was too. The punters picked Michigan to win right before the game started, but I was down on them all week. That can happen. Down on them all week. You get ready for the game. I switch it up. I did that for the 2001 Citrus Bowl. All week long, I was Tennessee. Got down there, the Citrus Bowl was warm. Was doing the pregame, and I just got caught up in it. Michigan, I picked. And then when I was down on the field, I saw these receivers. Jason Witten was on that Tennessee team. Kelly Washington, Dante Stallworth, and I was watching them going through the receiving drills, and I'd never seen anything like it. I'm like, oh, Michigan's not going to win this game. But I'd already made the prediction. So that's the way it goes. I don't mean to be hard on you, Dre. I get it. He predicted Texas would beat us. UCLA played against an LSU team who throwing, not running. That's it. Richard says he admits only during the streak have I been negative. What streak? The streak that the last 3 years. Yeah. Admitting it's okay. You don't have to pick against Michigan. You can call out other people too. Like I was talking about at the beginning. I don't care. It's all for fun, if you like it. What really matters, I guess, and if you like gambling or not, if you go to the window, you go to your phone. If you put your money where your mouth was, well then hey, then you got paid for it. But there's a certain amount of appreciation I have for people that always pick for Michigan. They never entertain anything but victory in their mind. They're only, thinking maize and blue, and they don't want to contribute to anything that's going to be even thinking that it would be, part negative, towards Michigan. And if you're, thinking that they're going to lose or predict they're going to lose, it's a little negative. So that's it. All right. Thanks so much for joining us. I have asked people to do this, and I'm going to today try a different approach. I demand that you join the Maize and Blue review today. And I demand it because you're the kind of Michigan fan that wants the latest, accurate Michigan football news. You don't want some big-time homers or a bunch of negative Nancys. You want writers and Michigan media that can look at something and tell you how it is. And that's what you get from the Maize and Blue review. You join up by going to michigan.rivals.com, and then I'll see you over on the Den, which is the posting board and a community where Michigan fans go and hang out and talk about the Wolverines all day and all night. And one thing that I did not realize, but I have realized fast over the last couple of weeks is that, yeah, you're a Michigan fan and but there's slight interest in the Lions and the Tigers. Detroit sports being talked about on the Den in a nice fashion during the game that's been very enjoyable. So a little benefit of joining up Michigan.Rivals. Give yourself a present. Give yourself the gift of the Maize and Blue review. Again, michigan.rivals.com. If you have not done so, hit the like button on this pod. When people say subscribe, rate, and review, those are all things that are very helpful in the podcast and YouTube community. So thanks for anybody who has ever done that. We are pushing towards 5,000. I'm looking to get out and watch that Washington game with some of you. So the details will be ready for you in the days ahead, certainly before the game. We'll have to tell you where we're going to be there. So long. And we'll talk with you on Friday, getting you ready for the little brown jug. Till then, so long.